wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match.
Golf is the last sport built entirely on trust. There is no referee walking every hole, no video review booth catching a bad drop in the rough, no technology scanning your card before you sign it. When you are out on that fairway, alone with your ball and your conscience, you are expected to do the right thing. That is not just a rule, it is the soul of the game. People have played this sport for hundreds of years on a single understanding. You count every stroke. You call penalties on yourself. You play the ball where it lies. If you are watching this and want to support the channel, hit the hype feature and give this video some hype right now. It costs you nothing, and it helps massively. Alright, because we are counting down all 7 encounters, and trust me, the stories only get worse as we go, and the number you write down on that card at the end of the day is supposed to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Golf has always been different from other sports precisely because of that. You are your own official. Your word is your scorecard. That is a beautiful thing when it works, and it makes everything fall apart when someone decides the rules simply do not apply to them. So when you hear that 7 of the most respected names in professional golf have all played around with the same man, and that almost every single one of them has a story attached to it that goes well beyond birdies and bogeys, it raises a question worth sitting with. What exactly happens when the honor code of the fairway meets someone who does not seem to care very much about honor codes? Because here is the thing, one of those golfers basically said he was rubbish on the course. And the others? They had plenty to say too once the cameras were off and the pressure of politeness wore thin. Let us start with the most recent moment, because it set the stage for everything that came before it. In July 2024, Bryson uploaded a video to his Break 50 YouTube series that went viral almost immediately. He invited the former president to Bedminster for a round, filmed the whole thing, and tied it to charity. Stroke under par would send $10,000 to the Wounded Warrior Project. The pair shot a 50 together in a scramble format. $220,000 went to the cause. On the surface, it looked like sport doing good things, but the criticism came fast. The video was filmed just weeks before the 2024 election cycle hit its peak. Critics called it sports washing, arguing it was less about golf and more about painting a flattering image of a polarizing political figure at a critical moment. Bryson called it about golf, not politics. But given that he had previously carried the Trump Organization logo on his staff bag, and given the timing of the release, that defense did not land well with a lot of viewers. A younger, more diverse audience that had connected with Bryson through his YouTube journey felt the rug pulled out from under them. Millions of views, millions of mixed feelings. And that is where we begin our countdown. 7 golfers. 7 first-time encounters, starting at the bottom and working our way to the one name that defines the whole conversation. Number 7, John Daly. Daly has been friends with Trump since the 1990s. Of all 7 people on this list, Daly is the only one who has never wavered, never distanced, never issued a quiet clarification after the cameras left. He says Trump does not cheat. He calls him one of the best putters among amateur golfers, says they laugh together, talk history, share a genuine bond, and have a great time on the course. And when the cheating allegations came up over and over in the press, Daly did not just defend Trump. He pivoted entirely and pointed the finger at other politicians, specifically naming Bill Clinton the one who actually cheats on the course. Now, in isolation, loyalty is not a flaw. Sticking by a friend is a human thing to do. But here is the problem. When every other person in this story is either quietly distancing themselves or telling vivid, specific stories about mulligans and drop balls and scorecards that simply do not add up, the response is to defend the man while attacking everyone else who plays golf and politics. That is not testimony. That is a loyalty test dressed up as analysis. Daly's credibility on this specific subject has taken a hit, not because he is dishonest, but because the pattern around him is so overwhelming that his counter-narrative ends up making the dominant story louder, not quieter. Number 6, Jack Nicklaus. Jack Nicklaus is the greatest golfer who ever lived. 18 major championships. A legacy built over decades that no one could touch. He is the standard against which every player who has ever swung a club gets measured. And then in 2020, he endorsed Donald Trump for re-election, describing him as more diverse than any president he had seen in his lifetime, and urging Americans to look past controversial tweets and focus on what he had tried to accomplish. The reaction was severe. Critics called for boycotts. Commentators said his legacy had been tarnished. Some pointed to a possible conflict of interest, noting that the Trump administration had backed a $20 million budget proposal for a children's hospital project connected to Nicklaus. He framed his support as patriotism, policies over personality. But the damage was done. When the PGA Championship was moved away from Trump Bedminster following the events of January 6th at the Capitol, Nicklaus blamed cancel culture. Nicklaus had known Trump for years. He designed courses for Trump properties. He said Trump loved golf more than money. He called him a fast player with a solid game. But the endorsement changed how a generation of golf fans saw him. Not as the golden bear above the sport's politics, partisan figure who used his platform to push a candidate. That asterisk is permanent now. No amount of major trophies removes it. Golf had always prided itself on being above the fray. Nicklaus was the living proof of that idea, and now he was the exception that complicated it. Number 5. Lexi Thompson. In 2019, Lexi Thompson played an Easter round at Trump International in West Palm Beach with the president and conservative commentator Rush Limbaugh. The White House posted photos of the three of them on the course, smiling, enjoying a sunny Florida day. The internet did the rest. Thompson was ruthlessly attacked by online trolls. Comments were, by her own description, hurtful. She was not into politics. She had not gone to that course to make a statement. She was there to play golf. But none of that mattered to the people flooding her mentions with abuse. The backlash was so severe that she handed her social media accounts over to her management team entirely. She could not face opening the apps anymore. Here's what makes this story different from the others. The male players on this list who played with Trump, Tiger, Rory, Brad, they all faced some criticism. But they also retained their platforms, their sponsorships, their standing in the media. None of them felt the need to surrender their social presence because the pressure was simply too great to handle. For Lexi Thompson, a woman who had already been treated more harshly than her peers throughout her entire LPGA career, the Trump round became a defining story that overshadowed her achievements on the course for years. That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern playing out in real time. Same action, a round of golf, produced a punishment for her that was simply not handed out at the same level to any of the men on this list. Number 4. Bryson DeChambeau. Now we come back to Bryson properly because there is more here than just the viral video. Bryson had played with Trump many times before the Break 50 episode, praised Trump's iron play, his putting, and his understanding of course design. He said Trump critiques bunkers and slopes mid-round, that he knows the game at a technical level, and that for his age he strikes the ball remarkably cleanly. But the 2024 video was different because of what it represented. It was not a private round, it was content, produced, edited, and uploaded to build an audience of millions. And that audience, which Bryson had spent years growing through relatable, hardworking, underdog energy, was not uniformly happy to see him hand that platform over to a figure whose golf reputation had already been dissected in forensic detail by investigative journalists. The charity angle gave Bryson cover, but cover is not the same as context. And in the weeks before a major election, context matters more than almost anything. The well-documented gap between what gets said about Trump's game in polite company and what actually gets witnessed on the course made the video land differently for a lot of viewers. They were not seeing a simple charity round. They were seeing a curated image, and they knew exactly what they were looking at. Number 3. Brad Faxon. Brad Faxon is a member at Trump's Jupiter Club. He was in the foursome for the famous 2017 match with Tiger Woods and Dustin Johnson. Faxon partnered with Trump against the two stars. Professionals played from the back tees at around 7,600 yards. Trump played from the blue tees, closer to 6,500 yards. The match ended all square after Faxon missed a birdie putt on 18, and that is the polished version of the story. Here is the other version. During the round, on a par 5, Trump chunked a shot into a lake. He turned to Faxon and said, "Throw me another one." Well, Tiger and Dustin were not looking. Faxon hesitated. He pointed out that Tiger was right there and might notice. Trump's response was, "They did not see." He then hit the second ball into the water as well. Faxon was later asked why he did not call it out. His answer was extraordinary. He said that everyone he knew had a great Trump cheating story, and they did not have one yet. They wanted their own story. Let that sink in for a moment. A professional golfer, someone whose entire career is built on the integrity of a self-police sport, stood on a fairway and chose not to call a rules violation because he wanted to collect the anecdote. And on top of that, the final result of the match, all square, came about after Trump allegedly gave himself a 4 in a hole where he had actually made something closer to a 6 or 7. Rules did not govern that round. The desire to keep the peace and pocket a good story did. Number 2. Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy played with Trump in February 2017, just weeks after the inauguration. He got a phone call from the newly elected president. He took it, he went. He described the experience as surreal. 30 Secret Service agents on the course, 30 police officers, snipers physically positioned up in the trees around the fairways. They talked about grass types and the golf itself, not politics. Rory said he felt he was simply respecting the office. Then the internet got hold of it. Rory was called a bigot and a fascist by critics, saw his presence at the course as a direct endorsement of everything the administration stood for at that moment. He was genuinely taken aback by the blowback. He tried to explain himself. It was about respecting the institution of the presidency, not the politics of the man holding it. It did not work. The guilt by association had already settled over him like a cloud, and no statement he gave could fully lift it. By 2020, Rory's position had shifted completely. He publicly criticized Trump's handling of the pandemic, calling his behavior terrible and saying it was not how a leader should act. He described the response as being treated like a contest, who could administer the most tests, rather than a public health emergency requiring calm, honest leadership. And he confirmed that his decision not to play with Trump again was not circumstantial. It was a deliberate, conscious choice. He acknowledged the day itself had been enjoyable. He said Trump was charismatic, but he made clear that charisma is not the same as character, and that the professional cost was one he was no longer prepared to absorb. Number 1. Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods and Donald Trump go back further than the presidency. They have bantered, bickered, and needled each other over the years. In November 2017, during Tiger's comeback from the back surgeries that had threatened to end his career entirely, the pair played a high-profile round at Jupiter alongside Dustin Johnson and Brad Faxon. Tiger was sharp. According to Faxon, he outdrove Dustin Johnson roughly half the time that day. He looked like himself again. For those watching from outside, it looked like a perfectly managed public moment. Two legends sharing a fairway. Trump praised him afterward as an amazing person and a close friend. Tiger kept it about golf. When pressed in 2018 on his relationship with the president, he gave his now infamous answer: "You have to respect the office. No matter who is in it, you may like or dislike the personality or the politics. We all must respect the office." The backlash was immediate, and it was sharp. ESPN commentator called it a thoughtless statement, dressed up as a thoughtful statement, arguing that respecting an institution does not mean granting its occupant a permanent free pass from accountability. Critics said Tiger was choosing comfort over courage, proximity to power over genuine engagement with what that power was doing to communities he claimed to care about. And then came the green at Trump National in Los Angeles. Activists carved the words, "No more Tigers, no more Woods," into the turf. Whether you read that as protest or provocation, the meaning was clear. Tiger's name was now tied to the brand not just through friendship, but through the perception that silence equals complicity. Trump later called Tiger very smart for not playing the media's game. Tiger never contradicted that assessment. For a man who has spent a career redefining what sporting greatness looks like, the image of standing quietly beside a figure whose conduct on the golf course was under deep, sustained investigation sits uncomfortably alongside everything else his name stands for. That investigation belonged to journalist Rick Riley, who spent years speaking to over 100 caddies, developers, club professionals, and fellow players. The picture that emerged was not of a passionate amateur who occasionally bends the rules. It was of a systematic, deliberate pattern. Handicap claimed at 2.8 that independent trackers put somewhere between 10 and 15. 18 club championships, 12 of which were actually senior or super senior events. Several more claimed at courses that were not even officially open at the time. One win allegedly called in from Philadelphia, 87 miles away from the course, with a score that did not match what the caddy had recorded. A monument erected at a Washington course dedicated to a Civil War battle that historians say never happened anywhere nearby. Ancient dunes in Scotland, bulldozed during development, earning contempt from locals that has never fully faded. The pattern is not isolated incidents. It is a philosophy. Rules exist for other people. History is whatever you declare it to be. The scorecard reflects the result you want, not the one you earned. Here's the thing, though. Golf is going to survive this. The sport has outlasted every controversy thrown at it over the last century, and it will outlast this one too. The integrity of the game does not live in the habits of any one player, no matter how famous or powerful. It lives in the millions of weekend golfers who count every stroke honestly, the young players coming through who still believe the number on their card means something real, and the professionals who walk away from certain invitations because they understand exactly what the cost will be. These 7 players revealed something true about what happens when the weight of power enters a space that was designed for honesty. Some were burned immediately. Some took years to process what they had witnessed. Some are still standing by their position. But the game is bigger than any of them. Always has been. And the fairway is still right out there, waiting for the players who still respect what it stands for. If this story made you think, drop a comment below with which of these 7 encounters surprised you most. Like the video if you found it worthwhile and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. The honor code is still worth defending.